What's up, guys, and welcome to Gamescript. Tonight, we're looking at the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills for Sunday Night Football. And it's a matchup where on DraftKings Showdown, the two highest owned captains are the quarterbacks, but both quarterbacks have struggled in this matchup. So, who would be the optimal captain in this matchup? And I'll get into that right after this. Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. Today, I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills. It's a 46.5-point total with Baltimore as 2.5-point favorites. But I think really that could swing either way. It's a very closely matched up game between two high-powered offenses, and the Bills have been on a roll. Bills are going to be shooting to be undefeated in this game, and Baltimore, I believe, has lost one game. So it's a couple high-powered teams, a couple potential Super Bowl teams going up against each other, and two AFC contenders, anyways. But we'll see how this matchup lines up. But make sure to hit that like button. Looking for 30 likes to trigger a shorter video. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a shorter video out today, but I'll post in my comments in YouTube favorite plays for like the right before lock when I would have normally put out a shorter video. Getting off to a later start than normal today. Just had a bunch of stuff going on, but make sure to do that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm at 950 subscribers. I'm looking for 1,000. So I'm only 50 off of that. So make sure to subscribe, and we'll get into this this matchup here. So as I said at the top of the show, it's two quarterbacks that have struggled in this matchup in the past. Josh Allen is facing a Baltimore team, though, with a different defensive coordinator. But in the past, Allen versus Baltimore has 24 DraftKings points, 12 DraftKings points, and 13 DraftKings points. Lamar Jackson, he's been very similar versus this Buffalo team that's been run by McDermott for the last three matchups he's had against them. 17 DraftKings points, 22 DraftKings points, and 8 DraftKings points. So Jackson has fared a little bit better than Allen in this matchup, but I do think I like Allen better if I'm leaning towards one of these guys as a running quarterback to put in the lineup if I can only put one. We've seen what Allen has done so far this season. He's been on fire for 2 out of his 3 matchups at least. 30 versus Jacksonville, 32 versus Arizona. He only had 10 versus Miami. But tonight's matchup, like there should be no, like too much stressors for him not to perform well, with Baltimore giving up 20 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. Lamar has the rougher matchup where Buffalo's only giving up 12 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. But if you look at, the last few quarterbacks that Buffalo's faced, it's been Jacksonville. So Trevor Lawrence, who's struggling. It's been Tua, who got hurt early in that game, and Arizona with Kyler Murray. So that has been the opponents for Buffalo so far. With Lamar Jackson, we see he's gotten 29 DraftKings points, 17 DraftKings points, 26 DraftKings points. So he's having a decent season. But him struggling in this matchup in the past, the defense is basically the same, like as far as the scheme. And, like the Bills are only allowing 12 DraftKings points a game in general to the quarterback position. None of that bodes well for Lamar Jackson tonight to be the guy that we lean to if we're only playing one quarterback. Although Lamar Jackson is obviously a guy who can overcome any matchup, But for the sake of our lineups and our salary restrictions, if we need to limit ourselves to one quarterback, it might be Josh Allen who we go with instead of Lamar Jackson. So something to keep in mind there. As far as Derrick Henry might be a good guy to help us tell that story. If we want to tell a story where, Baltimore is keeping it closer, Derrick Henry's more involved, Derrick Henry's maybe poaching a couple touchdowns or something like that. We see that Henry got 33 DraftKings points last week against Dallas, 16 the week before, 10 the week before. So depending on our game script is going to depend on, like how much we want to use Henry for our exposure tonight. James Cook has screwed me in every showdown so far that he's played this season. Last week was the latest one where he had 18.7 DraftKings points on 11 touches, 11 attempts, and 5 targets. So he ended up getting a touchdown in last week's game. He got 2 touchdowns the week before that, but I'm still going against him. And, hopefully it pays off. The Ravens have only given up 17.5 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. And I think that this is a game where, maybe we see James Cook stop screwing me. Zay Flowers is in a pretty good matchup because the way that the Bills defensive scheme is set up favors Baltimore's offense, the type of offense that Baltimore likes to run. They like to throw more in between the numbers in the short, intermediate areas of the field, courtesy of Warren Sharp. I was watching a clip of him earlier, but yeah, that's basically the primary place where, like Lamar obviously likes to target. He doesn't throw it like deep too much downfield, but he targets in between the numbers, intermediate, shorter parts of the field. And that's a perfect setup for us, especially with, like all those injuries that Bills are dealing with on top of that. They've got several defensive injuries, Teron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, and obviously Matt Milano has been out for the season. I think he got injured in week 1 or something. So, or maybe even in the preseason, but he's been out for several games. But this is a matchup that favors a lot of these weapons on Baltimore. Guys like, say, Flowers. Flowers is running, Flowers is running a majority of his routes from the slot, or at least a third of his routes from the slot. Let me check that and give you guys a more accurate number on that. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold, so if I sound like ass, that's why. So I'm going to check out this Bills matchup here and get you an exact idea of where Zay Flowers is lining up. I'm going to check out the Baltimore Ravens. And Flowers is lining up. Yeah, he's bumped up to 34% from the slot. He runs obviously a decent amount out wide, but 34% in the slot, targeting that weakness of Buffalo is good for us. We know that Baltimore has a couple stud tight ends as well in Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. They haven't used Andrews a lot this season, but Andrews has answered reporters' concerns about him potentially being injured. And he said that there's a lot of good stuff going on behind the scenes, quote unquote, or something like that along those lines, where kind of led to believe that, maybe something is on the horizon for Andrews. Maybe he's going to be more involved in the game plan, something like that. But Andrews is at a super low price. In addition to that, we see Andrews here at 5,800. On top of that, he's low owned projection for tonight, 23% about. And Isaiah Likely has taken a lot of his steam. So a lot of people are on Likely more than Andrews. And Likely is more expensive, only by 400. But Andrews should get a nice ownership discount for us, and Andrews is, potentially going to be needed in this one, because if it's going to be a close back and forth, Lamar might want his, at least at one point, his favorite target in the game. And again, with that short and intermediate part of the field and all those injuries to the linebackers of the Bills, then that says a lot of good things for Andrews potentially, or likely. I think you can maybe rotate those guys into your lineups depending on who you like or which direction you want to go. Khalil Shakir also has a good matchup, because just like Buffalo, that is where the Baltimore defense is pretty weak. Baltimore is allowing 13.9 DraftKings points a game to the slot position. They're also allowing 24.9 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. Shakir runs 76% of his routes from the slot, and this is a matchup that is going to be beneficial to him. Also benefiting are the tight ends. The tight ends are in a good spot on the Buffalo side. Baltimore has allowed the second most yards to the tight end position. And you see Kincaid came alive a little bit last week. He's been kind of scripted out from the way that these games have played out for Buffalo the last couple weeks. So we really haven't seen anything out of Kincaid. But in a close game, don't be surprised if we see Kincaid finally have a decent game. Coleman suspended for the first quarter last week. If you watched Bob Gomes and I on our show last Monday for the 2-game show, we were both high on Coleman, and unbeknownst to us, he had been suspended for the first quarter. So some stupid, team violation, and really took him out of that game basically. But he did score a touchdown to salvage some of that. I don't know if that's going to carry over the maturity issues or whatever he's dealing with. But Baltimore, as far as wideouts, like I said, 24.4 DraftKings points a game. So you want to keep Coleman in your player pools, but I think he's got something about a 15% target share on top of that. So Keon Coleman really has not done anything, but that's not to say that he can't do anything. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Andrews, I talked about. Justice Hill is, again, interesting with that defense weakness on the Buffalo side. We could see a decent amount of passing work to Justice Hill tonight, or at least like more than he normally gets. He got 2 targets the last couple games. He had 8 targets in week 1 against Kansas City in that close game. I can't remember how that game played out. It might not have been as close. I think Kansas City had actually a decent lead, but they were playing from behind, and you saw he got 8 targets in that game script. So if we want to go with something of a Buffalo heavy game script, that would make a lot of sense to have Justice Hill in, kind of game script where we would fade Derrick Henry, obviously. Tucker and Bass, both stud kickers, both are in play. Bateman, not so high on Bateman. He's been disappointing for years, but 4 targets last week, 4 targets the week before, and 5 targets. So he hasn't been doing too bad this year, but he hasn't gotten any fantasy output from it. As far as the matchup for Bateman, though, Buffalo is allowing 11.5 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, but the competition, as I mentioned before, has not been that great. Injured Tua has been basically the best quarterback to throw against him, apart from Kyler Murray, depending on if you think Kyler Murray is a good quarterback or not. Bills defense and Ravens defense. I'm probably not going to touch these plays, 4K and 3,600, but I wouldn't rule them out of your player pool. Curtis Samuel has that same benefit in the slot as Khalil Shakir. That's where Curtis Samuel is running the majority of his routes, but he's got a lot less playing time than Shakir. But still, for a one game slate, Samuel would be interesting. Aguilar, another slot guy in this matchup tonight. Facing off against that that Buffalo slot coverage and short and intermediate routes. So we leave Aguilar in our player pool as well. 1 target last week, 3 targets the week before, and 1 target the week before that. 3,200 salary, but Aguilar is in play. If you think Buffalo has significant lead, that would make Ray Davis interesting. Coming in for mop-up duty. He got 7 attempts last week, 9 attempts the week before that in favorable game scripts. But keep in mind, same restrictions with Cook and that Baltimore defense. But at least with Davis, you get a 2,800 salary versus Cook's salary. Ty Johnson scored a touchdown last week. If you watched the show, Bob Gomes on the 2-game slate had suggested, 2 of Buffalo's running backs in the 2-game slate. They ended up being 2 of the top 4 scores on the slate because Ty Johnson ended up getting 13.6 DraftKings points. I don't know about him in this matchup, though. Like I said, I'm trying to stay away from the running backs on Buffalo's side in this game. Matt Collins getting a decent amount of work. 2 targets last week, 1 target the week before that, 2 targets the week before that. But let's check out his snap count. Matt Collins had a 72% snap count last week, 71% the week before that, and 58% the week before that. So seems like he got favored in those blowout matchups. But Matt Collins is definitely interesting at 2K. And Valdez-Scantling would be the other interesting guy, but he hasn't really done anything but 2 targets last week, 1 target the week before that, 2 targets the week before that. So Scantling, if you need the salary relief at 1,200, he's probably about as cheap as I would go, though. So let's start building this lineup. Allen will probably be the most popular captain option. People who get in Allen are going to want to get in probably Jackson as far as a chalky standpoint. Shakir, I think, is another guy people will want to get in their lineups tonight. And Flowers, let's see if we can get Flowers in there too. That leaves us with 3,250 left per guy. Like I said, you could get, let's get Matt Collins in there. Leaves us with 4,500. You get one of the D's in there. You can get Samuel in there, Aguilar, Bateman. You can go a lot of routes with Allen in the captain. Beauty of these teams is they got so many cheap ancillary pieces, and they're all just a hodgepodge of guys that could do anything. Like any one of them could pop off and have the same risk as reward. They could get you a goose egg, or they could get you 10 points maybe. So keep that in mind with your final spot. But this is a type of build you could go if you had Allen. You can get a lot of those studs in there, and depending on the game script that you like, maybe you take Flowers out and you put Henry in there. You'd have 3,300 at that point. You do a bunch of stuff with that direction. I, on the other hand, want to go in a direction where I'm putting a guy like Shakir in the captain. Both these quarterbacks have struggled, keep in mind. So I probably, I want to try to put in just one. So I'm going to put in Allen there. For my game script, I'm going to go with, maybe in this particular lineup, Henry is getting a lot of run, and Baltimore isn't needing to use Jackson's legs so much. I'm going to put in Flowers for that intermediate routes that I was talking about. I'm going to put in Kincaid. That's going to leave me with 2K. Then give me like Hollins, Valdez-Scantling, options like that. And that all works with me having Allen in there with multiple pass catching options. Shakir racking up the majority of the PPR points. You can swap Shakir out with Kincaid with this build too. If you think Kincaid will have a better game with that second most yards to tight ends that Baltimore is allowing, I think that would make a lot of sense. As far as an ownership perspective, captain ownership, Kincaid's at about like under 5. They're both about 5%, under 5%. If you wanted to put Flowers in there, you could do that too. If we put Flowers in the captain, let's get Shakir in there. Let's get Kincaid back in there. Leaves us with 1,500. That takes us out of that Matt Collins range. Gives us like Valdez-Scantling as the only option really worth considering, in my opinion. So there's a few directions. Sorry, guys, I didn't go more in depth. Give me 30 likes, and I'll put out a 2-game slate video tomorrow. I'm going to have a spread on the show tomorrow. I'll try to get a short video up. If I can't, then I'll put up in the comments section my favorite guys on the slate. It is about 2 hours before game time, so I'll try to get that short video up. But thanks, guys, for watching. Hit that like button. I'm going to need 30 likes to get up my next video. Thanks, guys.